So here again with another bit of tips and tricks for how to create audio with Adobe Audition. What we're staring at now is a waveform for a piece of audio I've recorded, which I want to use to promote these sets of videos on YouTube. This is a promo I did to create a video which I'll post on Instagram. It's a promo for the tips and tricks I'll be sharing with you using Adobe Audition 3.0. So this is the waveform. It's the raw audio. If you look at the left here, this is the portion where all the files you record or bring into or import into Adobe Audition would appear. As highlighted, this is the Instagram promo. It's in raw mode. This is how I saved it. This is what I called it. Up here is the music bed I'm going to use as part of editing. We're going to do all the editing in the multi-track view. This is a set of sound effects, glitches, whooshes, and all sorts of funny things usually here in radio promos. And this is another set as well. These are presets that were offered for free online that I got. I also have a habit of putting bits and pieces together to recreate my own, which is what I've done, taking effects from these two here to create effects here, which I'm going to actually use for this purpose. So I have my own IG promo effects here and then the IG promo effects closer. So we're going to head on to the multi-track view now, where we'll put these things together to create a promo or a jingle. And I'm actually going to use this to create a short video for the IG promo, which I'll use for the tips and tricks of this class. So come with me. So here we are, multi-track view. These are tracks. These are the places where we're going to import and dump our bits of audio. We have 6 tracks already preset, and then there's a master track at the bottom here. I don't come here too often. I don't come to the master track too often. I do whatever I want to do within maybe 3 tracks, and then I export as an audio file. So what do we want to do here? Usually I advise, if it's something you're going to do regularly, create a template such as this and then save it first of all. Okay, so we want to save the session we're going to work on. The reason I do this sometimes is just in case anything happens to your system, or NEPA takes light, your battery isn't working well anymore, or whatever you started working on would at least be saved. If you notice, all the files here do not have an asterisk on them. That's because they're already saved. It means I don't have problems with the individual files. But actually, I want to save my session, my workspace for this session. So I'll save this. You come down to save session as, click on that, give it a name. I'd have to head out or here. Where I'm working is in my video files. It's a folder called Radio Bootcamp Videos. So I have creating a podcast intro and outro. We want to create something else, so I'll give it a new folder name. You can save anywhere you want to as long as you remember where you saved your files. So we're going to say creating an audio jingle. Okay, let's just call it that for now, and we open it up and just type in the audio jingle for the bootcamp. It's really long, so it's up to you to save it as whatever you want it to be saved as. You can click here if you want a situation where maybe the files you bring in are from different places, like what I usually do, I go to different folders, import them and bring them here. If you save copies of all associated files, it means that whenever you open this session on maybe any other system, those files also should be saved within this folder. So you won't have to go looking for them in the other individual folders where you got them from before. So click on that, click on save. So we have a name, Audio Jingle for Radio Bootcamp. Click on save copies for all associated files. Leave it as multi-track session because that's where we're working now, and click save. So I'm going to use just three tracks. How I usually do my stuff. You can tag them if you want them to um, have a better meaning for you. So I'll put up here effects, put in track two, voiceover, and then track three, music bed. You can choose to arrange them howsoever you want. So I'm going to do what I'm basically going to do now is drag and drop. So we have our effects here, right? So I bring in my first effect into the first portion. Hit on this point to narrow down your view so you get to see exactly what you're looking at. So you just hit here, and this is for your view. You can reduce the length of your view or increase the length of your view rather, or zoom in to a particular point of your view. So you can see that it's not at the beginning and I want it to be. Right now, this is the time selection tool. Wherever you click this, it allows you to start editing from that point in time. But what I need to use right now is this. This is the move copy clip tool. So I click on this and then it shows me this arrow on the file. It allows me to drag, drop, arrange the audio file wherever I want it to. Please ignore this. Okay, so we have this now at the beginning of our multi-track audio. We hit this to signal the beginning. We can click play. Okay, and I'm quite satisfied with the fact that it's right there. So I reduce this view again because I intend to bring in another file which is longer. So I need to know the length of that file. What do we have on the next channel? Voiceover. So I'm going to bring in Instagram promo right now into this point. I might reduce this again because I would want it to aha, there's a bit of a gap here that I don't need, but let me see what it feels like. Hi, my name's Tony Doe. Okay, let's leave it at that. But usually I drag my voice audio to just underneath the last bit of the sound effects. But over time, work with your ears. You'll be able to decide or decipher what actually works well for you. This is just a free, quick thing I'm doing, and I hope it turns out all right. So we have our first effect, and then we have our voiceover. I'm going to add the second effect now, so I'm going to reduce my view and then drag in my closer effect still on the effect channel and then drag it to the end of my voiceover. I'm going to reduce this from this point because I want to focus on the end. Drag it so that I can see exactly where I want it to be. Reduce it again, drag again to focus on the particular area. Now you can see that it is just above the final point of my audio. I'm going to use the timer tool now, the time selection tool, drop it here because this is where I want to play from. Now, either you hit the space bar on your keyboard or you click play. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with that, but let's start from the beginning. Let's hear what this sounds like before we add the music bed. So from the beginning, we'll press play. Hi, my name's Tony Doe. Here's urging you to check out my YouTube channel where you'll learn tips and tricks on how to create audio content for your radio shows and or podcasts using Adobe Audition. Okay, I'm satisfied with what I've heard. Now I am going to add my music bed. Everybody has a method to how they choose to use music in their podcast. Now, don't forget, we're a multi-track version and we've saved this session, but we need to save it again. As you can see, it's telling me this is an untitled session with the asterisk mark. It means I have not saved what I'm doing. Now, before anything happens to my system, I quickly hit the Control S, which is save. I can also hit this because this is exactly what I'm working with, or I can choose to save it as something else, but this is really what I'm working with. So I save, and it's asking me whether I want to overwrite what I've already saved before, and of course I do, so I click on yes. So this is where we are now. Okay. Well, looks like I might have to save it as something else. I don't know what happened. I'll try and figure that out later. Audio jingle sample. So this is a new session I'm actually saving. Click save. It already exists. File overwrite. Yes. Okay. So it has acknowledged that there are certain files that already exist that I'm saving as. Okay, we continue. So usually because of the nature of the music I use sometimes, let me drag and drop this first. So this is the music bed. This is what it looks like. I'm going to leave this to click on this so that I can drag it. This is what it looks like. I'm going to narrow it down so we see how it ends. I like using the end parts of my music beds to relate, or rather to sync with what I'm doing. So it appears that as the music is ending, my promo is ending as well. So I'm going to reduce the music bed. You click on the side, this point, you can see the double arrows there, and then just drag it down to the left. An alternative would be to use the time selection tool, demarcate and then split it, then delete the parts you don't need. But I've done this now. I've come back to my move tool and then I drag it down here. It's still not enough for me, so I'm going to use the time selection tool to pick a point, right click, split it, come back to my move and copy tool, click on the part I don't need and delete it, then drag to this point. Still too long, but let me work with this in the meantime. So we go back to the beginning. Now, the volume level here is not, it's probably too loud for me to use. So there's something we can do here. You can see a white button up here. Yes, as soon as you hover over it, it tells you it's the volume with a finger pointing to the white button. So I can click on that button and drag it down. That means I am reducing the volume level. I like to bring my levels down to this line point in the audio I work with, mainly because it works for the audio I work with, especially the voiceover. But over time, as I said, you will work with your ears. So wherever you feel you hear right, you work, with what you want to work with. So this is what I work with. Over time, I've mastered the ability to just quickly skim through these production pieces, having a preset notion in my mind, and then listening afterwards so I can work a lot quicker. Now I am going to split this audio at this point. I'm going to bring this again, drop it here, right click, split, and I'm going to remove this portion that I don't need. So I right click and I delete. Now back to the music bed again. I am now going to create my own fade out on the music bed to coincide with the end of the promo. This point here, this square, is the crossfade tool. You can see there's a 4 arrow point on it. I'm going to click on it. You can see it has the fade out linear value. It has a number value. Over time, when you become an expert, you might start working with numbers, but this time work with your ear. I'm going to click on it, drag it to my left to around, say, this point. Now, this is the point where I want the fade to begin. I'm going to place the selection tool here, play it back, see if it sounds like what I want. Podcasts using Adobe Audition. So it fades, but I'm not totally satisfied with the fade function. So I am going to do something else to the music bed itself. I'm going to click on this point, on the volume. I'll click on this volume itself. As soon as that finger point appears, it means you can click on it. I'm going to click on it. So it means I can start adjusting the volume from this side or even this side without affecting the whole. But I'm going to come to the end again to this point and then drag this point down. As you can see, it is slanted, which also means that the volume level has faded lower, or rather has faded out a bit more. Now I'll play it back again to hear what it sounds like. Podcasts using Adobe Audition. Sounds a lot better. So I'm also going to do the fade in point at the beginning here. Again, on this square, as soon as you see the 4 arrow points, click on it, It says fading linear value. I'm going to drag it to the point where my voiceover begins. I'm also going to do the same thing again to the volume. Click on the exact point it changes there. Then drag this end down to create the fading effect. I'm going to listen to it to hear if it sounds like what I want. Hi, my name's Tony Doe. Here's urging you to check out my YouTube channel where you'll learn tips and tricks on how to create audio content for your radio shows and or podcasts using Adobe Audition. Okay, I think I'm satisfied with what I've done. It's not perfect, but it will do. So I'm going to head on to File, Export, Audio Mixdown. Click on that, and then you can choose the format with which you want to export this. But first of all, I have to get into the right folder. This is the Creating a Podcast Intro folder. It's not the one I want. So I'm going to go up. Creating an Audio Jingle folder is where I'm going. Open this up. So let's say we want to save it as an MP3 file. So we click on MP3. The presets here are pretty decent. You click on options just to be sure this is what you want. It's showing us 192 kbps, 44 Hertz stereo. This is decent. This is actually very good. But you can also pick the best, which is the 320 kbps. Sometimes I usually pick the 320 if I intend to use the audio for something else. Other times I save in WAV files, then convert to the MP3 format I want to use. But sometimes, depending on the system I use, it may not be the best. But this is standard. The 128 kbps, 44 100 Hertz stereo is fine. If you can find that on your system, click on it, save it. Now, what this even does is that it's a lot easier to open on other files, that have these presets. So you don't have too much of a problem opening MP3 files or working in workspaces that require this particular format. So I'm going to click on OK. Now I'm going to give it a name. IG Promo Jingle Full Mix. And I'm going to click on Save. So it's saving down now, mixing everything down to a file. Now it's opened as the file itself. We're staring at a 13-second audio promo. I'm going to go to Effects. This is what I do. You can actually leave it like this. This is actually beautiful. Plays well. Hi, my name's Tony Doe. Here's urging you to check out my YouTube channel where you'll learn tips and tricks on how to create audio content for your radio shows and or podcasts using Adobe Audition. Okay, it sounds okay to me, but I have a habit of going further. I go to Filter and EQ, hit the FFT filter, click on the mic rumble, relative difference, sorts of brings everything together, puts them on the same level. I head back to Effects again, Amplitude and Compression, come down to Normalize, leave it at 100%, click OK, and this is the standard volume. I save. Click OK, and hi, my name's Tony Doe. Here's urging you to check out my YouTube channel where you'll learn tips and tricks on how to create audio content for your radio shows and or podcasts using Adobe Audition. So there you have it, a basic audio jingle using sound effects, a music bed, and a voiceover. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something as well.